All right, today we're jumping into one of the most significant and honestly most debated verses in all of biblical prophecy. It's just one sentence, but wow, has it fueled some theories? We're going to unpack it all together.
Okay, here's the verse at the heart of it all. Matthew 24, verse 31. And he will send forth his angels with a great trumpet, and they will gather together his elect from the four winds, from one end of the sky to the other. So you've got angels, this massive trumpet blast, a cosmic gathering. But who are the elect? And what does this all actually mean?
This one verse really boils down to two huge questions that people have been wrestling with for centuries. First, who are the elect? And second, what exactly is this gathering? Are we talking about the end of the world, a secret rapture, or is it something else completely? So, to figure this out, we're basically going to treat this like a biblical detective story. Here's our game plan. We'll start with the mystery verse, then we'll look at the four main suspects, the competing theories. After that, we'll dig into three crucial clues right from the text: the context, the trumpet, and the heavens. And at the end, we'll see where the evidence leads us for the final verdict. Yeah, this one verse, it's a real cornerstone for so many different ideas about the end times. And getting this one right, it can honestly change how you read huge chunks of the Bible. So let's kick things off by looking at the main theories out there. All right, so over the years, four main interpretations have really come to the forefront, and each one has a totally different answer for who the elect are and what this gathering is all about. Okay, so as you can see, these views are pretty different. You've got the first three, which all say the elect are believers in the church, connecting it to other parts of the New Testament about Jesus' return. The main disagreement between them is just about when it happens. Is it a pre-tribulation rapture, a gathering after the tribulation, or the final resurrection of everyone? But then you have that fourth view, and it's a real game changer. It says the elect aren't the church at all. It says they are specifically the remnant of Israel, being physically brought back to their land. So four really different theories on the table. How in the world do we figure out which one the Bible actually supports? Well, there's only one way. We've got to go back to the text itself and follow the clues. So let's start the investigation. Okay, clue number one, context. This is so important. You can't just pluck a verse out of nowhere and expect to understand it. We have to look at everything happening around it, the setting, and maybe most importantly, who was Jesus talking to in the first place? And when you actually do that, something just jumps off the page. It becomes incredibly clear. This entire chapter, Matthew 24, is just laser focused on a very specific people and a very specific place. The audience, the geography, all the cultural references, they are all, without a doubt, overwhelmingly Jewish. And look, the evidence is right there in the text. Verse 16 gives instructions specifically for people in Judea. Verse 20 gives this unique warning about fleeing on the Sabbath, which is, of course, a uniquely Jewish law. And then verse 15 talks about the abomination of desolation, which is all about the temple in Jerusalem. It all just keeps pointing to one thing. The immediate context here is Jewish. Okay, let's get to our second clue, that great trumpet. Now, this isn't just some random dramatic sound effect thrown in there. No way. For the original Jewish listeners, hearing about a great trumpet, a shofar, would have immediately sparked a very specific, very ancient memory from their own scriptures. Just look at the direct parallel here. On the left, you've got our verse, Matthew 24:31, and on the right, a prophecy from Isaiah 27. The language is almost word for word. A great trumpet is blown, and it leads to a gathering to Jerusalem. And this is what's so cool. In the Old Testament, the trumpet is a well-known symbol for the national regathering of Israel. So when Jesus uses this exact same imagery, he's tying his new prophecy directly into that very old, very important tradition. All right, this brings us to our third and final clue. And this one deals with a phrase that honestly gets misunderstood all the time, from one end of the sky to the other. Now, for us today, that might sound like it's talking about heaven, where God lives. But we have to stop and ask the important question. What did that phrase mean to the people who first heard it? And here's the key. It's a Hebrew idiom. It's a figure of speech. It's not talking about the spiritual heaven. It's talking about the physical sky, like a dome covering the planet. So when you put it that way, the phrase just means from all corners of the earth. It's describing a massive worldwide gathering happening right here on earth. And once again, we can go right back to the Old Testament and see this connection made crystal clear. Take a look at this from Deuteronomy chapter 30. God promises to gather his scattered people, even if they're at the ends of the earth. The language in Matthew is a direct echo of this very specific promise, a physical return of exiled people from all over the world back to their land. Okay, so our investigation is done. We've laid out the four main theories, and we've dug into three really important clues from the text itself. Now it's time to piece it all together and see where the evidence is really pointing. So let's just recap the evidence. Clue number 1, the context of the whole chapter is undeniably Jewish. Clue number 2, the great trumpet imagery is a direct callback to Old Testament prophecies about Israel's regathering. And clue number 3, the phrase from one end of the sky to the other is an idiom that means the whole earth where exiles are scattered. So when you put those three clues together, the Jewish context, the trumpet imagery, and the earthly idiom, they build this incredibly strong, cohesive case. The evidence from inside the text itself seems to point away from a church rapture or a general resurrection, and it points directly to that fourth view. That this verse is a prophecy about the future, physical gathering of the Jewish people back to the land of Israel at the return of the Messiah. And this quote really sums it all up perfectly. It says this verse depicts Christ sending angels to gather his elect, the scattered Jews, from the nations, fulfilling God's promises to restore Israel. It's a powerful picture of a covenant promise finally being fulfilled. And that leaves us with a pretty fascinating thought to chew on. If looking at Matthew 24 through the lens of Old Testament prophecy helps it click into place this perfectly, it kind of makes you wonder, right? What other New Testament prophecies might suddenly make more sense if we see them as a continuation of that older story? It really suggests this beautiful, unbroken thread running through the whole Bible.